Hey everybody, this is your girl, Mrs. Toy Banks, the world's most satisfied wife. That's right, I'm satisfied. And today, I have a question for you. You said that you want a great marriage. Is that true? Does anybody out there want a great marriage? I hear married people always saying, I want a great marriage. I want a wonderful marriage. I want my spouse to be my best friend. You know, I want to have greater intimacy. I want a greater connection. I want this. I want that. I hear single people saying, I can't wait to get married. I want a great marriage. I want this. I want that. That's all great. That's all great. But here's what I'm seeing, unfortunately. People are saying what they refuse to do. So they are saying, I want a great marriage. Yet, their behavior is the opposite of what they are confessing. Do you know that your verbal statement needs to match your physical behavior? Right? So if you say you want a great marriage, you have to actually do what people that are in great marriages do. So if you, let me just tell you a few things that will not make your marriage so great. So if you're dishonoring your spouse, you're impatient, you got a nasty attitude all the time, that doesn't create a great marriage. I want to ask you this. How many of you know the 5 needs of a man? The 5 needs of a woman? Many people want a great marriage, but they don't even want to study their spouse's needs, and they don't even know their own needs. How can you truly satisfy someone's needs if you have no idea what they are? How can you communicate to your spouse what you need if you don't even know your own needs? Though you want a great marriage, your actions prove that you really don't want it. You're not willing to fight for your marriage. I'm gonna fight for my marriage. I'm doing everything to fight. You don't understand, Toy. I am fighting for my. Are you? When the last time you prayed? Are you praying every day? Are you in your word? Are you in your word? Are you taking the word into prayer? Where's your faith? Do you trust that God is going to change him? Or are you saying to your girlfriend, oh girl, he ain't gonna never change? Are you studying your spouse? You studying your wife? Are you studying your husband to see what is that thing that they need and how you can be a blessing to them? Are you serving them over yourself? Are you being selfless or are you being selfish? Because that's what it takes in order to have a great marriage. In order to have a great marriage, you got to be a giver. In order to have a great marriage, you got to be a forgiver. In order to have a great marriage, you got to be willing to serve someone even over yourself. In order to have a great marriage, you got to be willing to communicate. Many of you have shut down. You don't even know how to talk to each other without cussing each other out, without yelling and screaming, without becoming impatient, without running out the house. But you say you want a great marriage. Well, if you're going to produce a great marriage, it starts with you. And so here's what you can do in order to create a great marriage. Go and look up everything you can. There's so many speakers that speak on marriage. There's so many speakers speaking on understanding a man, understanding a wife, understanding the components of create a successful marriage. There's so much out there. You want to create that? Go study that. Go read a book that teaches you how to be a satisfied wife, a satisfied husband. Go read something that teach you to understand your husband, to understand your wife, if you really want a great marriage. Because that's what you said, right? Is that what you want? So tell me, what are you doing? You're watching this right now. Tell us, what are you doing to make your marriage better? What have you failed at? Because if you're struggling in your marriage, not only is your spouse failing, but you could be failing too, because we are good at pointing the finger. And that's another thing that will not create a great marriage, is you always make your spouse the reason why your marriage is failing. And yes, they might be acting up. They may be doing wrong. And yeah, there are some people that are destroying the marriage. Yes, we have those out there. But there's a lot of people out there where you are at fault and your spouse is at fault. And both of you are stubborn and full of pride and unwilling to serve one another, to seek peace, even to be willing to be wronged, to serve your spouse, even when you don't feel like it, because that's what creates great marriages. Do you know how many times I rubbed my husband's feet and I did not want to? You know how many times I served him food and I didn't feel like cooking, or I was mad at him and I still did it? There was a time I didn't do it because I didn't know what it meant to be, to create a satisfied marriage, to create a great marriage. I didn't understand the components, but when I learned that in order to create a great marriage, greatness happens, or the increase of satisfaction and the increase of love happens when you don't want to do it. Serving your husband when you don't want to do it is when your love and your service for him goes to a whole nother level. Because if serving them is always only contingent upon your emotions and what you feel like, you're not going to create a great marriage. This is what marriage is, and many people don't want to do this. You have to be selfless and willing to serve the other person over yourself. You have to make a commitment to honor and respect them with everything in you, and figure out solutions when a problem arises in your marriage, opposed to making the situation worse. That's if you want to have a great marriage. Do you want a great marriage? Do you want a great marriage? I have a Satisfied Wife Club right now. I'm equipping wives with the tools on how to be a satisfied wife. Many people, I had open enrollment. Many people have an opportunity. I even only had it for $14 a month. Many people had an opportunity, and everybody's crying. But who's taking advantage of the information that's out here? You can even take advantage right now of this video right now. You can actually do what you need to do in order to create a great marriage right now, by being selfless, by saying I'm sorry first, by loving on your spouse, by finding out how can I make your day better? And you don't even have to ask that question. You already know what your spouse loves, what they enjoy. Are you going to be a part of making their day brighter? And I'm not talking about because you like them. Listen, sometimes I don't like my husband. Sometimes he don't like me. But guess what? I'm in this marriage to win it. I'm in this marriage to serve and make his day a little bit brighter than it was. That's what I'm committed to do. What are you, husband? What are you, wife? What are you committed to doing? I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I don't want to do it. That's the truth of the matter. I'm a human just like you. We aggravate each other sometimes too. Sometimes I got to give myself a time out because I'm tired of me. Surely I need to give myself a time out for my husband. But that's okay. You need to step away sometimes and reevaluate yourself. Do a self-examination. And that's hard for many of us to do. But I made it a point to self-examine myself every time that a problem arises in my marriage. I'm examining myself to see, am I the problem? Am I making this situation better or worse? You have to be intentional about that. Because if you really want a great marriage, and if you really love your spouse, you're going to find out how to be a solution. You're going to figure out how to make this marriage greater. Listen, the Bible says, with marriage comes trouble. What we need to understand about that statement is, if God is telling us who created marriage, God designed marriage, and if he's telling us that with marriage comes trouble, that means he also will teach us how to deal with the troubles that come our way. God is the answer to every problem that you are facing in your life. And when you are not reading that word, you are not reading the solution. You're not discovering how to resolve those conflicts that you face in your marriage. God has the answer is right in the word, but we can't get married couples to read the word. Are you going to read the word? Because the solution is right there. If you want a great marriage, God has already designed it. Some people say, there's no book on marriage. Yes, there is. It's called the Bible. They say, oh, there's no book on raising children. There's the Bible. Oh, there's no book on resolving conflict. That's the Bible. The answers are right there. But the question is, are you going to read it? Are you going to meditate on it? Are you going to study it? And when you study it, are you going to actually do it? Because there's a lot of people going to church and they hear their pastor teaching up on that stage every week. And right now, virtually, you're watching your pastor. But are you applying what they're teaching? Because who cares that you know Genesis, scriptures, you memorize every scripture in the Bible? No one cares about that. We only care if you are living it. Your spouse does not care that you are more well-versed than they are. You being well-versed is not what's going to create satisfaction in your marriage. It's you taking the verses that you know and applying them. It's you taking that love that God talks about, the agape love that God talks about, that is unfailing, that always praises, always forgives, always hopes, taking on that kind of love that causes your marriage to go to another level. But you know what? I find that I could be the biggest problem in my marriage, or I can be the biggest solution. So my question from the beginning of this segment was, do you really, truly want a great marriage? And if you do, what are you going to do about it? Go ahead, put it in the comments. What are you doing about it? Are you already doing something about it? Or are you going to start today?